Morning, everybody. We'll give it a minute here for folks to come in from the waiting room, connect to audio, allow myself time yet again to figure out how to turn off the waiting room because Zoom has made it more complicated than I personally think it needs to be. There we go. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us this morning for this IBT professional development session. My name is Brittany Boston. I'm with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support, and we help support ICCB with IBT and a bunch of other things as well. So you've probably heard my voice, seen my face before, all of the wonderful things. Just a few housekeeping items before we get into the content for today. We are on Zoom meeting, so you do have the ability to unmute yourself. You do have the ability to turn your camera on. We do ask that you're just mindful of that. One being that we are going to be recording this session for playback at a later time. And so if you would prefer for your video not to be recorded, just make sure that you have that video off. Microphone, if you have questions and comments, we'll be taking those at the end, but just always be aware of that little microphone button. We know if you have to step away or if a work call comes in or if a student pops in because we're back to school time, just being mindful of that. If you have questions or comments, like I said, we'll take those at the end, but please feel free as you're thinking of them, throw them in the chat so you don't forget. And then towards the end, if you want to come off mute and ask your question that way, you are welcome to do that as well. Momentarily, I will put the link into the chat as to where these recordings and resources and all the wonderful things of IBT can be found on our website. And I think that is all of my housekeeping items. If you have any technical issues, you can always private message myself or Dalton Byers, and we will do our best to get you taken care of. But other than that, I'm going to hand it over to Courtney and Melissa to get us started for the day.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We are excited to join you virtually from Malta, Illinois. Um, we originally did this presentation at the Strategies at Work non-credit conference in Peoria. And I'll be honest, it was a whim. Dr. Baird kind of said, "Hey, how do you feel about presenting about this thing that we do?" And I said, "Sounds great." And so Melissa and I and Dr. Baird came together and put From Setbacks to Success financial support that keeps our non-credit students on track. So obviously, this is just here at Kish, but we hope similar, it can be duplicated or adjusted to kind of meet the needs of your college and hopefully foundation. So this is all three of us, just fun. Dr. Barrick, unfortunately, was unable to join us. As they said earlier, it is back to school chaos time, and so it's all hands on deck at times. But she confidently said, "You guys, you're good." So, but my name's Courtney Walls. I am the director of development here at the college. I oversee actually our grants department, and I'm also the executive director of our foundation for our college. And I've been here almost 3 years. But
And I'm Melissa Gallagher. I am the interim director of health sciences operations, and I oversee the short-term programs at Kishwaukee College. A lot of them are health science related, a few of them are not. And also some other various responsibilities within the health sciences division at Kishwaukee College.
so the question we always kind of start off, and I think a lot of us see this every day, I'm sure. What can happen in a student's everyday life that suddenly makes staying in school harder? And so always refer to those as the barriers of our students, but Jessica put this together, but always possibly related. So in the Federal Reserve 2025 data, Actually, 32% of adults said that they could not cover a hypothetical $400 emergency expense, just entirely with maybe their cash, savings, credit card, wherever, that they just truly could not pay that off immediately with what they had available. Um, I feel that on a daily basis. I think we all know that feeling of those unexpected emergencies that they really can truly change our path of what we're doing at the moment, and especially with our students and their education. So, you know, that's just the general population, but really, when you look at who we're serving here at the college, that percentage would probably be actually a lot higher within the need and the ability to pay off something that were to occur in their life as an emergency. So, just a snapshot of Kish College. If you have not been here, we are surrounded by cornfields. We are actually, we were founded on farmland. And so I literally can look outside and see the corn that's growing. So we are small in size, but mighty in power. And so I normally have to tell people we're right down the street from NIU. And then they're like, oh, okay, I know where you're at now. We are, like I said, a rural district. We our kind of map actually includes about 7 different counties within our district map. So um, some very small, some larger, but we really encompass quite a bit here at Kish. Our head count typically is about 4,500 students. And we know that we are primarily a transfer college. Many of our students, this is just their first stop, maybe to their education or next steps. So about, like I said, says 65% of our students are transferring beyond here, whether they stay 1 year, whether they do a program. But we're, like I said, we're the first of many in their education adventures. However, along with our credit side of the house, we also have an amazing non-credit programs that our Melissa runs. So we have our appliance repair program, dental assistant, pharmacy technician, phlebotomy, real estate, sterile processing technician, our CDL truck driving training, and our vet assistant. So uh, many of these are online only, but I will not steal the show of you, Melissa, for the next portion.
Okay, so like Courtney shared, we do have a lot of short-term programs. They are non-credit, and majority of them can be delivered within one semester. A couple of them are a little bit longer than that, but not that much more. And they are considered Kishwaukee College students. They do receive a Kish email. They can participate on campus and any of the activities or resources that are available. Although majority of the classes are either 100% online or delivered in a hybrid format, and then their hands-on, like clinical lab portions, are actually delivered in either like a dental office or a veterinary hospital, so they don't really come to campus. Phlebotomy and appliance repair and truck driving do come to campus. Um, and they are welcome to participate in the commencement ceremony as well, too, and many of them do choose to participate. My role with the short-term programs, and I've been working with these programs for roughly 11 years, has been in the program development. I pretty much do most everything associated with the short-term programs. My title also used to include continuing education, or we'd shorten it to CE, which I used to joke and say that means covers everything. But that's good because then I have a lot more control over everything as well, too. So I schedule the classes, promote them, prepare everything that the instructors need. I meet with each student individually when they're interested in participating to make sure that that's the correct program for them. I actually am responsible for registering the student. And one of the things that's important in regards to our discussion today is helping them to set up a payment plan if necessary to participate. As you guys probably know, a lot of the programs are, well, not a lot, but a few are covered under WIOA, which is great. Some were able to receive some path support in the past, but majority of our students do utilize our in-house payment plan option, which is something that I manage. We don't charge a fee for that. We don't charge late fees. And it's been really helpful for students to be able to participate in the class. And for the most part, it's not 100%, but for the most part, it all works out and everybody makes their payments and, you know, they're able to complete and be able to manage participation, their financial component, without putting a lot of stress on them. And given this new fund that Courtney has worked to put together, we can also provide that additional support when unexpected situations arise. I also help the instructors. Like I said, I'll order any supplies, any student issues. I work collaboratively with the instructors to address those. We do have a couple programs that do require clinicals, and so I am responsible for coordinating all of that and ensuring that all of that goes well and that the students have the support they need during their clinical. We evaluate the programs and make those necessary adjustments and improvements. So we're continuously improving and making sure that our programs are relevant in the community in which we serve. And when students, finish, of course, we want them to become gainfully employed. So I work closely with career services before, during, and after class participation to make sure that students have that support they need. We're really trying to focus now on getting students connected with career services as early as possible. We have a terrific team that can provide them with really great guidance. So they put their best foot forward when they're looking for jobs. So we try to do everything we can to support the student experience through these programs so that they do become employed and we are contributing to, the success not only of the students, but of our employers and our community as well.
Yeah, don't let Melissa undersell herself. I always say, like, she does all that and then some. So she does an amazing job managing our short-term programs and really continuing to support the amazing of the what we do. So but obviously she's amazing, but there was gaps that we couldn't ignore with our students, that uh, there was needs that Melissa wasn't able to help, although she does an amazing job finding every nook and cranny. So um, this is off to you, Melissa.
All right. So, yeah, so, like I said, our programs are very fast paced. And so, the students do need to complete their payments before the end of the class. And typically their payments are about once a month. They have a down payment that's due shortly after registering, and then they have to make their payments about every month of class. We want to get them out and working as soon as possible. Um, the higher financial fragility, I mean, oftentimes people haven't saved up for this. They know that they need to make that change in their life, and the timing works out, but sometimes the financial resources aren't available right away. So we're trying to be as supportive as possible with that so to enable their success. Um, because the classes are online, as many of you might understand, we don't always connect with the students directly in multiple ways. So I always connect with the instructors every week, making sure that things are going well. And most of our instructors don't have offices. They don't have office, the KISH phone numbers. They have emails. So if there's a situation where they're struggling to communicate effectively with the student, I am more than happy to contact that student by phone and encourage them to respond via email to their instructors. All of our instructors have access to Zoom as well too, so oftentimes they will connect with the students via Zoom too. And we encourage students not only to be successful in our programs, But once they get out into the workforce, we are preparing them for an entry-level position. So we encourage them to consider thinking about Kishwaukee College in their future so that when they are ready to make that move to the next step, we're here to provide them with that training and educational support that they need to further their career. So always want to make sure we stay connected with them. um, Challenges, like Courtney mentioned before, is that, things come up and our students, like I said, don't always have that well of resources available to help them. And so when I don't receive the payment on time, I make sure that I reach out to the students and find out, what's going on. And I always tell the students too, if you have a concern, please reach out to me, as soon as possible. I send monthly reminders about the payments. Let me know if you have any challenges. Let's see what we can do to help. So we are so grateful that we have this additional funding to be able to support the students. Because before they would just kind of drop off, and that was really unfortunate. They could have been doing really well, and then just, things come up, and they're struggling to make that payment, and it's hard. And so now we have this support, and we're seeing, a lot more students being able to complete the programs and move on. So really happy about that.
So just like Melissa said, I think as a college, we have a lot of support within our credit programs. And I'm sure you see that, obviously at your institution. So most, I would say, if not all, have an emergency fund for students. So we have ours, which is called the Champions Fund. So this emergency funding students apply to through their advisor. And so their advisor helps them fill it out. It looks at things such as, did they apply for scholarships, their FAFSA, did they apply, their GPA, their course enrollment. So there's a lot of things embodied within that emergency fund to make sure we're looking at the entirety of the student. Um, and the fund does not pay the student directly. So we instead pay, whether it be ComEd, rent. We had a student the other day that needed help with a car at a local car body shop. So, and then the applications are reviewed by a team, and then we make the decision for funding based off of all of that. The fund can only be utilized 2 times within your time here at Kish, and that's very well maintained as well. So a good process was set up for credit students, and just looking at their need. However, it wasn't really what the short-term students needed or what we were looking at for our short-term students. And so we really kind of had to look again at what are we doing and is it effective for not only the program, but our students that we're serving. So we just made a little bit of a co-design shift of thinking. However, I know that this is Melissa. She's like, people just want to hear from the foundation, but I laugh because I'm like, I couldn't imagine my life not being ingrained within instruction and every part of our campus because that's why I have a job. So I will say a big part of this is the foundation as a strategic partner. So really looking at how we bring in our donors and how we communicate with our donors too. So, like I said, I can't imagine my life without being ingrained within our instructional and non-credit and type of campus. However, I know that that's not true for all. So, we really, within our community, I will say, we have a beautiful support system. So they care about our local students very much. There is this, I think that I said the other day, that hot word of workforce. But workforce access, people always want good employees. That's what we hear not only from foundation, workforce, everywhere. And that's strong future workforce focus. And looking to create that impact, whether I think that's what everyone wants is the impact for the community and our students. Um, but I would encourage, and I would say I'm happy to even touch base with any of you of foundation. You could start small. I think it's a conversation to be had. Um, and I think that our ultimate goal is to support students here at Kish, and those students are every student. There are adult education, there are non-credit, there are credit. Uh, there's not a stone unturned. And so I feel like this is important for our college. And so it's important for us as a foundation as well for that kind of strategic partnership. And so many donors just want to know the need, and you should, and the need within this was to support our non-credit students.
And I think what's interesting about short-term programs, and correct me if I'm wrong, Courtney, is there's something different to talk about. A lot of the donors know all of the other, traditional programs that we have, the traditional scholarships that we have. But I keep saying that the short-term programs, we got to get off that best kept secret list. And because so many people will say, "Oh, I didn't know Kish offered that. I didn't know Kish offered that." So I think this has been an opportunity for Courtney to shed light on some, non-traditional type of, programs that we offer to talk with maybe regular donors or, people that are like, well, what else is going on campus? And, oh, I didn't realize that you offered that. And tell me more about how those programs work. And, oh, people can go to work, in less than a semester with, with skills and knowledge in a career path. So, I'm hoping that I'm not speaking out of turn, but saying that this was some good material for you to use with our donors. So just a different way to connect. Um, so is this mine? Yes, it is. Okay. So the challenge fund. So like Courtney was talking about, the Champions Fund pays the bills that students come, have, that is getting in the way of them, being successful and continuing in class. But the challenge fund actually goes towards their tuition. So because we do offer these in-house payment plans, we're able to utilize that challenge fund um, money that towards the cost of their tuition payment. So, in order for a student to receive this assistance, they need to let me know that, something's going on in their life. And then I send them a link to a Microsoft form that's very simple. They just need to enter that information. We have not turned anyone down at this point. It's all good. Whatever, we just need to keep a record. We do require that they write a thank you letter. And yes, I do provide them with a template to assist them with that. And they are more than welcome to, customize the template themselves. That seems to expedite the receipt of the thank you letter. And then, like I said, yeah, the students do have to reach out to me, and, make the effort of completing the form and communicating with us, providing that thank you letter to the donor, and then we will apply the funding directly to their tuition payment in their payment plan.
And then this is the Microsoft form, just kind of a glimpse. So there, I think we all know to get anyone to fill something out, like short, sweet, to the point. I know that from a scholarship perspective. So we really customized what we were looking for within the Microsoft form. It's an easy link. Myself, Melissa, and Dr. Barrick all get a notification when someone completes this form, and then we all come back to the table, review the application, and approve or decline it. So it's in all, kind of pathways for the student. And then we do ask for a qualifying status. It's not that they have to disclose any of that, but we find that that's helpful as well in helping students kind of identify their need. I even know that within scholarships, to ask a blanketed question, that's really hard for someone to communicate the the bulk, of, yeah, you're right. I do have a lot of barriers, or there are quite a bit of qualifying things that would show you that I need the assistance for us. So like I said, we really customized the Microsoft form to make sure that we were getting what we needed from the student, but it was not complicated to complete as well. Now over to you, Melissa.
So yeah, like Courtney mentioned, we do have a process. Kind of think we went through most of this already, but it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. The biggest challenge, as probably many of you know, is just getting the students to communicate the information that we need. But once, we have what we need, we're pretty quick on being able to turn that, answer around and get the funding applied to their account. The more information we can gather from them, the more information Courtney then has to go back out to donors and saying, this is what we're seeing, there's a trend here. So I think it's been helpful in that way, especially with our non-traditional students, to get a better understanding of the barriers that they are facing, the challenges that they have, so that we can enlighten our donors to that as well, too. So.
Okay. So, did it work? So yeah, we would tell you success is absolutely. And so within, we've been doing this now a little over a year, I would say, for us. So we've assisted 9 students within 4 different programs, and then financially about 4,400 worth of tuition paid for them, at 100% completion rate. And so that's really where we go back to these students. They identified they needed help, which is a huge, that's great for them to even say, I need help. Um, but then for them to get through that barrier and then complete their program. And so we we continue to grow. We continue for outreach. I know even Melissa and I meet this afternoon to continue to make sure we're best serving the students and our donors, and making sure we're making the impact that we wanted to when we started this. So, like Melissa said, around $500. However, we do have flexibility where we've paid more than that. We had a student where they had 2 more payments left, so it was a little over 1,000. And the student had a more than 3 to 4 sentence, did a beautiful job of communicating, and so we went ahead and paid the remainder of the payments on that. Um, and so I think this fund gives us flexibility to also meet the student, and hear their concerns too. And so this is me giving blood, because Melissa knows she can always call when the phlebotomy students need an arm, a hand. I think I've done quite a bit. But I really say make connections and make friends. Melissa and I saw each other already this morning on campus. We continue to talk. Like I said, I give blood. I'm surprised that in our community, even I took my kid to the dentist, and the person said, "Oh, I went to Kish at the dental program." And I thought, "What's your name?" Okay. And so I think once you understand the impact, the connections you make here and with your foundation, it is large. Donors can start small. The fund was actually already an existing fund where the program that the fund was intended for was no longer offered here on campus. So it was sitting stagnant. There was nowhere, the funds were just sitting. And so it was an easy conversation with the donor. And I said, "Hey, we have this going on." And they said, "Great, give this $7,000. Let's see where it goes." And so quite often it can start small, or it can be sitting stagnant in your as a foundation, because we just never asked the question of whether the donor would be willing to adjust what their support was given. But finding the barrier and working from there, I think, like I said, I love our short-term programs. I think it's a beautiful start for our students, a pathway into the next venture. Many of them go into the workforce, but some of them start their adventure here at Kish because we start talking to them about scholarships and all these things that can be provided for them. Um, we just wanted to make sure the community knew about the hidden gem of short-term for Melissa. And I think, like I said, they're everywhere, and CDLs, all kinds. I mean, our local hospital consistently asks for more phlebotomy, sterile processing, and so we've even ventured, okay, well, if the need's there, where's maybe there's funding for it. And so we continue to kind of work together to communicate the need back out to the publics so that they can support those ventures. So, um, and I said, thank you are beautiful. Having a student have a voice to give back to a donor, they can tell their story amazing. And sometimes that's all a donor needed to be able to provide a much larger pathway for that student as well. So, um, but yeah, that was all of our chaos. Right. So really our biggest takeaway is to talk to each other, um, to communicate the needs of our students, whether it's credit, non-credit, adult ed, um, but also connect with your foundation. I was saying, I didn't realize that that's not a thing. Melissa's like, no, I don't think a lot of people. I'm like, oh. So I realized that every student comes in a different path here to Kish, and our job is to support that through the foundation. So yeah, but I guess if there's now, I think Brittany or Emma, we're good if you wanted questions.
Yeah, so does anybody have any questions for our amazing presenters? Okay, well, if not, you all are free to log off. I know this is a short professional development. I hope it was useful. But I will let you all go and go about your day. Thank you so much, Courtney and Melissa, for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you for
Thank
inviting us.
you.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you all.